Okay, think about this. 75 years. That's a whole lifetime ago. A book written way back then, you'd expect it to feel, well, dated, right? Like a piece of history. But George Orwell's 1984? It's something else entirely. It's not just a book on a shelf. It's become this kind of cultural warning light we keep looking at to check on our own reality. And this isn't just some dusty old academic thing. I mean, look at this. Just recently, the author Margaret Atwood, the queen of dystopian fiction herself, she's on social media talking about a new bill, and what does she call out? Thought crime. That's straight from Orwell. It's just wild how a word he made up is now part of our everyday political playbook, a go-to term for a very specific kind of modern fear. So that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why does this 75-year-old book still hit so close to home? What is it about this dark, chilling story that gives it such a grip on us? That's what we're going to dig into, how this novel continues to shape the way we even talk about power and control today. All right, so to really get why this book is so powerful, we have to go inside the world Orwell created. Let's talk about Oceania. This isn't just a country, it's a totalitarian superstate where the idea of personal freedom, well, it's been completely wiped out. In Oceania, everything is run by one group, the party. And at the top is this mysterious, all-seeing leader, Big Brother. His face is plastered everywhere, and he's not just a leader, he's a symbol. This figure you're supposed to worship but also be terrified of. The kind whose eyes seem to follow you no matter where you go. And that leads to this phrase. It's literally everywhere. On buildings, on posters. It's more than just a slogan. It's the rule you live by. The whole system, the party's entire grip on power, is built on this one simple, terrifying idea. You are never, ever alone. Someone is always watching. So how do they do it? Well, their main tool is something called the telescreen. Imagine a TV in your house that you can't turn off, ever. It's always on, blasting out party propaganda, but here's the kicker. It's also watching and listening to you, 24/7. You can turn the volume down a bit, but you can never, ever shut it off completely. And that's the real genius of it, in a twisted way. It creates this constant nagging paranoia. You don't know if you're being watched at any given moment, just that you could be. So you start policing yourself. You learn to hide your real feelings, to keep a blank look on your face. Every little twitch, every whisper could be seen or heard. It's not just that you don't have privacy. The whole idea of a private self starts to disappear. But it gets even deeper. The party isn't satisfied with just controlling what you do. They want to control what you think. And for that, they have the thought police. Their job is to hunt down thought crime. This means even having the wrong opinion in your own head. A flicker of doubt, that's a crime. The real battleground isn't on the streets, it's inside your own skull. Okay, so you've got this constant surveillance, which is scary enough. But that's just the beginning. The party's real endgame is complete psychological control. It's all about reshaping the mind itself. But how on earth do you even do that? I mean, really, how can anyone control what's going on inside someone else's head? How do you get people to not just follow orders, but to actually believe things that they can see with their own two eyes are not true? Well, one way to think about it is through this idea of powerlessness. It's a psychological state that the party works really hard to create. Basically, they make you believe deep down that nothing you do matters. You are totally helpless. Your choices, your actions, they have zero impact on your life. You're just a pawn on their chessboard. And they build this feeling of powerlessness on four main pillars. First, there's the total control over every little aspect of your life. Then there's the constant raw fear, the threat of torture, of just disappearing and being erased from existence. Third is the fact that the party just wants power for the sake of having power, nothing more. And finally, and this is the really mind-bending one, their total control over the past and all information. And that brings us to maybe the most famous line from the whole book. The main character, Winston, he actually works at a place called the Ministry of Truth, and his job? To literally rewrite history. Every single day. If the party decides they're now at war with a new country, Winston's job is to go back and change every newspaper article, every record to make it look like they've always been at war with them. Reality isn't just twisted, it's actively destroyed and rebuilt over and over again. But they go even further. To make sure no one can ever rebel, they're actually destroying language itself. They've invented this thing called newspeak.
It's a stripped-down, simplified version of English, and the whole point is to make certain ideas impossible to think about. I mean, if you get rid of the word freedom and all the words related to it, how can you even form the concept of freedom in your mind? How can you rebel if you don't have the words for it? All of this leads to this wild mental state called doublethink. It's the ability to hold two completely opposite ideas in your head at the same time and believe both of them are true. So when the party says they've increased the chocolate ration to 20 grams, you have to actively forget that just yesterday it was 30 grams, and you have to believe, truly believe, that it's an increase. It's how people can look at a slogan like "war is peace" and just accept it as fact. Now, what's really interesting is that Orwell's vision, it wasn't the only one out there. In fact, it was part of this bigger debate about what a future tyranny would look like, a debate he was having with his old teacher, Aldous Huxley. So you have these two classic books, and they paint two totally different pictures of how we lose our freedom. In Orwell's 1984, control is all about pain. It's fear, torture, constant surveillance, the boot on the face. But in Huxley's Brave New World, it's the exact opposite. Control comes from pleasure. People are kept happy and distracted with drugs, entertainment, and endless fun. They're not controlled by what they're afraid of, they're controlled by what they enjoy. And here's the cool part. Orwell was actually Huxley's student for a little while. So after 1984 came out, Huxley wrote him a letter. He said, "Great book, but I think my version is more likely to happen." Huxley's bet was that it's just way more efficient to control people by giving them what they want than by beating them into submission. And that leaves us with this huge question, right? What's more dangerous, the things we fear or the things we love? Are we more likely to be oppressed by force or just distracted into apathy? Because Orwell's vision was just so vivid, the book didn't just stay a book for long. Its ideas jumped right off the page and into the real world, and the word Orwellian became this powerful weapon, one of the worst things you could call a policy or a politician. And it's amazing to see how the book has been used and reused over the years. Back in the Cold War, the CIA was literally smuggling copies into the Soviet Union as propaganda. Then you flash forward to 1984, and Apple uses it for that famous Super Bowl ad, casting themselves as the rebels. Then in 2017, an advisor uses the phrase alternative facts, and boom, the book is a bestseller again. And, like we saw at the start, it's still being brought up in political fights today. It just fits whatever anxiety we're feeling at the moment. And that's really the key to its lasting power. The term Orwellian has been used by, well, pretty much everyone, all across the political map. From far-right groups to far-left groups, everybody thinks their opponents are the ones acting like Big Brother. It's become this universal accusation you can throw at anyone you think is lying, spying, or messing with the truth. But with everyone using the book as a weapon, it's really important to remember what Orwell himself was trying to do. He wasn't predicting the future. He was sounding a warning. Yeah, Orwell was very clear about this. He saw the nightmare of totalitarianism rising around him, with Nazi Germany and Stalin's Russia. He was writing about the dangerous trends he saw in his own time, showing us the worst-case scenario. He wasn't saying this is what 1984 will be like. He was saying this is what could happen if we're not careful. And once you see it that way, as a warning, you start seeing those echoes everywhere today, don't you? We talk about mass surveillance with things like facial recognition. We fight against fake news and disinformation every single day. We have huge arguments over how to teach history. And what about social media, where algorithms are literally shaping what you see and think? The parallels are pretty hard to miss. So in the end, this 75-year-old book was never really about the year 1984. It's about this constant fight over what's real, who controls the story. The party's greatest power was controlling reality by controlling information. So what does that mean for us right now, in a world of AI and deepfakes, where it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not? It makes you ask that final question, doesn't it? Who or what is controlling your present?